everything. The whole Kanye, coin, everything with that was a little wild, but I also want to let you guys know that that is a bullish sign. If you guys haven't seen the crypto markets and you guys were not a part of this before, when celebrity names start to be popped up and correlated with the markets, that means we're closer to euphoria, right? And there's some things I'll kind of go into, and like Jonas said, we'll go more into the charts, and he'll trickle in if he wants to add anything to what we're gonna go through. But really, is helping you guys take advantage of what's to come, and also realizing, like John Luke was saying right now, the best time was yesterday or a month ago or 2 months ago, but the second best time it is today. And I've experienced this in my journey where I'm gonna be, for you guys, my last run in back in 2021. I didn't get involved until Bitcoin already hit all-time highs. Like I didn't truly get involved in crypto, like as invested, until Ethereum basically doubled from the previous all-time high. Meaning it's like you getting into crypto when Ethereum is already at like 7, 8K. And as you guys know right now, Ethereum is barely has a wicked all-time highs, right? As we can see here. So right now, we are actually in times, you guys are actually earlier than what I was back in this time. Because when I first came into crypto, guys, it was right here. I would never forget this day. I was up to like the AM trying to buy one ETH. And I did at this week. I would never forget that day at 1200 around right here. And this was after all-time highs were broken, right? Basically right at it. So literally, you could say we're living in a time that this was a time that Gil was actually starting to look into crypto, but back in the last cycle. So if this is your first bull run and you're not invested yet, well, I'm letting you guys know there's still a lot of time and there's still a lot of potential, but you don't have as much time as you think. Now, I do want to ask you guys, put a 5 in the chat if this is your first bull run. I always like to ask down the calls because it gives me an idea. And it also, it helps me navigate with kind of what we can help you guys do in this. So we got a lot of fives. I mean, it's basically everybody. I'm just gonna say everybody. So everybody here is their first bull run, which is honestly so great because I love to see new investors come in. I mean, that's what we want. I want you to let you guys know that we want retail investors to come in and we want more people to be involved. That's retail than corporates. Even though right now, believe it or not, most people in crypto are not the normal person. They're not the average individual. It's actually corporations, institutions. So I can only imagine, and that's why I think your four is going to be insane when it comes to like the emotion of it this time around. And I think it will even catch more people at the top than it did before. So what I'm going to go through first, fam, when it comes to today, which we're going to go to altcoins, because that's where the opportunity lies. Now, I do want you guys to know this. There's a lot of tokens we have. Now, I use CoinGecko. If you guys have heard me talk about CoinGecko, put a 1 in the chat. This is what I use to look at, crypto. This is what Max Terrell uses, what we all kind of use. It's kind of like the Yahoo Finance of crypto. And we come on here and look at all these cryptos. Now, as you can see right here, there's 18,000 cryptos. Doesn't mean all of them are good, right? It's like in stocks, right? There's not good companies. There's not good stocks out there. And then there are good ones. But anything really, guys, that's outside of the main, which is Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP at this point, I would even put Solana in that category. Anything outside of that is more like an altcoin. But technically, anything outside of Bitcoin is an altcoin. I want you guys to know that the term altcoins came into the world when Ethereum came out, because the only coin that people knew and were even involved in was Bitcoin. So when Ethereum came out, it was like the alternative coin. That's where altcoins came about, if you didn't know. So that means anything outside of Bitcoin is technically altcoins. But I believe that there's barriers, right, within that, because just because you're an altcoin doesn't mean you're going to see a 1020x, right? Like Ethereum is not going to see a 10x this run. Not this run, maybe in the next couple of years or decades, right? But right now, it's not the case because it's already up there when it comes to market cap, which will also kind of tone in. But I do like to show this chart right here. It's called Others. So if you're on TradingView, obviously we all here in Powerhouse, we use TradingView for trading, right? The cool thing about it, you already have that advantage. So here you have a chart that's called Others. So all you do is type Others and then go crypto, and it's the first one. This shows the amount of money that is in crypto outside of the top 10. That means it's outside of these 1, 2, 3. I don't think this is counted. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, maybe Chainlink is involved, maybe not. So anything below this down here is what this shows right here. And as you can see, this is why I love to show about this, the total market cap already hit all-time highs. Total 2 is about to hit all-time highs. Total 3 is still about to hit all-time highs. And total and others, it still has a lot of room. Put a 7 in the chat if you agree with me that this one has the most room. 2 all-time highs. We're just comparing. We're not even talking about breaking them because obviously this can still happen, right? I think 1 trillion is a very reasonable target when it comes to others, in my opinion, just because where market can go to, we'll see. But anyways, previous all-time highs, we have a lot of movement. Now, obviously the question is, hey, Gail, what does that involve, right? What are the opportunities in that space? So really what I'm going to tell you guys is this. Looking at Chainlink and down is the opportunities that lie in these markets. Now, Chainlink is part of being the top 10. And you can tell right now with the chart, because Chainlink is already almost on my TP1. I have my TP1 at $30. It's funny because most people are going to get in here. And that's going to be my first take profit. I'm going to be obviously still holding some. But that's the beauty about these markets. And that's what you want to do. You want to be buying when people are selling or not paying attention. And you want to be selling when people are buying. Like you want the retail to be your liquidity, right? Like for you to get out. It's people buying. That's what we want at the end of the day. And that's why, we're ahead in this journey. But Chainlink, even though it's a good investment, I believe it's already in that category where if you're not in, it still could be a good one because it can at least double minimum, and then go all-time highs, of course. But it's something that I would put like on your main cap categories, like the ones that you have at the top. So I always tell people this, we talked about this, I'm not going to go too much into it, but I always tell people 50%. Okay. I'm more conservative. Everybody's different, but I have 50% on like main cap, right? Like the big tokens, like the ones that I know are going to do something regardless, right? The top 10, basically. The top 10 on this list. I tell people to have at least 50%. Now, there is a time and place for everything. But at the same time, in your first bull run, your biggest thing, and I would write this down in your notes, is to preserve capital. Preservation of capital in your first run, I think is the most important. Because if you don't do that and you actually lose money, I can guarantee that 90% of people who lose money, or here, maybe in Powerhouse, maybe it's a little bit lower, but most people that lose money in their first run never go back to crypto. Like put a 1 in the chat. Have you ever heard of somebody that's lost money investing in crypto and is not in crypto anymore? Even though the market's going higher, they're like, nah, bro, I tried that. Nah, I've done that. I didn't make money, right? It's funny because it's not the market, right? It's just the timing, the education behind it. And obviously we're here ahead. But it's important to understand that because these are key things to understand. So 50% top 10. So I definitely, Chainlink is still good. But I do want to talk about the other ones that we have. And then I actually do, want to get Jungle point of view, what he's looking at. But for example, for me, a couple of good ones I want to kind of come into and give you guys an understanding on like why and comparing to the markets. Cause like, as you guys know, I'm going to show you guys this just for perspective. Bitcoin is here, right? But the beauty about this is that altcoins, the actual altcoins and others is here. If you were to compare the chart of others and like, look, like we can do that actually. So let me do this. Let me do this. I like to give visuals. Like put a 1 in the chat if you're a visual learner. You like to see things, right? I can talk all day, but I would rather show you than tell you, because if I show you, not that you have to believe me or anything, but it gives you better understanding of like, okay, now I understand what he's doing. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you guys both charts here. Okay, oops, and give you guys perspective on where we're at. Others, which remember, there's the true altcoins outside of Bitcoin. Okay, this is Bitcoin. And remember, everything follows BTC. I know I have a lot of words. I'm not going to take it off because then I'll put it back. But this right here, I think, like put a 5 in the chat if you agree that this level right here is similar to where this is at, right? This is previous all-time highs. This is previous all-time highs, right? Around 50% of previous all-time highs. Yep. 50%. Yep, exactly here, actually. Yep. So, guys, I'm telling you guys this. We still haven't seen this move with altcoins. And the thing about altcoins is that depending what you're invested in, this is where the real opportunity lies. And this is where you see, you know, the X's that sometimes we talk about. I'm not talking about the 100X, like some of these crazy coins, but you know, a 5X, a 6X, maybe even a 10X, depending on which one you're looking at. But remember, the goal, and I've always said this, is to at minimum 3X. Like put 3X in the chat. 3X in the chat if you think 3Xing is good enough, right? Like let's say you start with $500 and you take it to 1,500. Let's say you start with $1,000 and it goes to 3,000. You start with 5K, it goes to 15, right? It goes to $100, goes to $300, right? That is, I want you guys to put that as like a minimum standard, like a standard. Like that is what I want to do, because you know what that does? Once you get to the 3X, you start to take profits. And it takes away the illusion of the 10, 15, 20X, because it can happen, but it's not always, you know, normalized. You know what I mean? So I don't know if John-Luc, bro, you want to touch on anything that I kind of I'm going through, but
Yeah. No, I completely agree that whenever you're looking at these cryptos and the technicals, the 50% of the Fibonacci is a key zone for retracement to look for entry. Now, obviously, the goal is to buy lower and sell higher, but I want you guys to understand that the lower the retracement, the less likely it's going to happen. And so you don't want to wait necessarily for a 0.881 or a 0.786 because that doesn't always happen. So one of the best things you can do is what we call DCA, which is dollar cost averaging. And so at that 50% mark on the fib, you can say, hey, I'm gonna put in 50% of my capital available at that price. And then I'm saving another 50% because if it drops to the 718 zone, I'm then going to put in 25%. If it goes to the 886, I'm putting in the other 25. And now I'm basically almost all in with my free capital that you have. So that would be my best bet rather than putting in everything at that 50% fib zone. Now, I would say that's more like a minimum. Like you don't really want to get invested and go back in the market when it's at like a 0.2, for example, because the retracement is so small. So keep that in mind. And also, the key to having spare capital is like really, really important because when there's opportunities that arise, you need to be able to go to that fund and say, I can actually execute on this right now today. Rather than saying to yourself, oh, I need to wait for payday. I need to wait for the end of the month or the week to then go in the market because how many of us in here know that waiting for the end of the month, 2 weeks later, for example, to get the money to go into that project you want, a lot happens in 2 weeks. Like the price that you wanted is not the price. Like keep this phrase in mind, guys. 1 week in crypto is like 1 month or 2 months in the traditional markets. There's a lot of changes and price moves fast. So keep that in mind when you're looking to reallocate and dollar cost average in the market.
facts, 100%. You know, I happy you went through that, bro, because I think that's important, right? It's like asking yourself, like, when should I buy? If the market is going up or if it's going down, like, when should I actually get in? Now, I want to give you guys a simple rule. And this is a rule that I follow because of Max Rotero. So shout out to him. Is I do not buy on green days. I only buy on red days because it's like a mindset thing. Because if you buy, I'm not saying if you buy on green days, you're gonna be in drawdown, or if you buy in red days, you're gonna be up tomorrow. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. But you want to kind of wire your mind to buy low, sell high. You don't want to wire your mind to like, I'm gonna buy when the market is moving up because of FOMO. Put a 5 in the chat if that makes sense. Right. So right now, what are most of these coins at? This is the percentage right here on the right hand side. Are we red or are we green? Let me know in the chat box. Are we red or are we green? Right here, right? Most of these. Okay. Majority of these, this is like the daily change. Majority red. So today could be a good opportunity that we have. Now, there's a couple I want you guys to look at. I know we talk about a lot of them on when it comes to Powerhouse and everything, but I want to give you guys perspective on how to really get the opportunities and the best buck of your money. Because I know some of us maybe are invested with $100, some of us maybe 200. It's not many who have maybe 3, 4, 5K, or even above that. There might some be, but I do want to let you guys know that to get the best buck of your money is understanding the next wave. Okay, I've said this before, but the first wave was Bitcoin. Okay, the second wave was Ethereum. The third wave, I think, right now is becoming like Solana, Chainlink, right? That's like the third wave. But there's a fourth wave, which I've been talking about, which is others. ICP is a good example, right? And to kind of narrow things down, you kind of want to look for cryptos in the top 100 that have use case, right? ICP is at number 52, right? It's at $2 billion market cap, which is technically a main cap coin still. It is a layer one, meaning it's its own blockchain. It's an AI protocol. And this is something that is very interesting on what it can do. Now, I've talked about this on calls like this. Like, I don't think it's going to reach all-time highs because all-time highs are a little bit crazy. I think it can definitely do a great, but at the end of the day, I want you guys to know that a lot of cryptos are going to move, right? They're going to move because everything's going to follow really crypto. So something like ICP seeing a 3x, because remember, our goal is minimum 3x, is very reasonable. So if you're looking for coins to look at, you're looking at certain things to accumulate, I think ICP is at a great entry right now. Like, I'm not even going to say lower because, like, yeah, I could, but like, let's be real, like, it's already in this zone. And you see how this has been consolidating? Like, put a C in the chat if you see that this has been consolidating. And you know what everything else has been doing? Bullish. Kind of bullish, right? Chainlink, bullish. What does that mean? That means the money is just being stagnant, but the money flows. Remember, in crypto, money flows. Bitcoin, Ethereum, layer ones. So like the Solanas, the Chainlinks, the Aaves, Aave, probably one of my biggest profit right now. I'm already at a 3x. I got in. This was my entry, but these are things that you start to know and start to learn every single thing. Like, literally, Aave is at 50% of all-time highs. So it's following kind of what Link is doing, for example, right? So it's kind of in that category. But another one is Jupiter, guys. Okay, I don't know if you guys have seen. Obviously, we talk about Jupiter a lot. It's a trading platform as well that we talked about on calls. Those are the things that Tony does as well, and I've started to do, as you guys seen in the chat. Shout out. I think he's on this call, but shout out to Vicente. He's actually from North Carolina, right? I think he's out there. And we had a good conversation, and we went through Jupiter, and he actually got his first profit. So put a 7 in the chat for my boy Vicente for taking action on things that we're teaching and we're learning from Matt Sotero, and he took the trade from the ideas in Zinrai, which is wild. Like, he literally just copy and pasted and saw the result of it. And that's what happens when you plug in, for sure. So Jupiter is an asset, right? It's a coin. It's what you're able to invest with when it comes to this platform. Same thing, guys. It's consolidating. It has a lot of things that it's doing in Solana, right? And right now, you can see here that Jupiter, okay, is at number 83. So it's still a top 100 coin, right? It's at 1.5 billion. This number is actually really good that it's higher than this number, like fully diluted. I'm not gonna go too much into it, but this is actually really good tokenomics. As you can see, the circulating supply is 3 billion right now. The max this coin has ever had was actually at the beginning of this year. It was 3.5. Okay, and also a good advantage for Jupiter, and I would add this to like the list that you look at, is that it's a new token. It wasn't here in the last run. That's something I'm looking at now, actually, is I'm looking at assets that have huge use case. A lot of people invested, a lot of people talking about it, but it wasn't here in 2020. Jupiter is one of them. Okay?
And I would, yeah, I fully agree with that. I mean, like, I was looking at Ondo. Ondo wasn't here in the last run as well. And so, imagine like it had all-time highs just a few months ago. Like, when everything else was basically fairly quiet, that's when it had all-time highs. And one of the tips to look out for, guys, is if a project has been consolidating for a long time, what is it building? It's building liquidity. And if it's been quiet, meaning if it's consolidating and there's positive news coming out, that is literally like a ticking time bomb for it to just sweep the liquidity to the upside and to go bullish and parabolic. Because how is it that there's been no negativity about the project? All these other altcoins are growing and the altcoins are moving up in price action, but that one project isn't. Like that is literally the time bomb for things to move upwards. So I would 100% agree. Like go into Jupiter's tokenomics as well, bro. Just looking at it, like that TVL, that total value locked is 2.8 billion. That's like really high compared to what they have in circulating supply and what they have as a max supply. Like just think about this, like 28% of their max supply is already locked. Like it's locked. What does that mean? That means that liquidity is fairly illiquid in terms of money can't just get pulled out of the project right away. Like you're not going to get involved in this, and tomorrow, 30% of the project's liquidity is gone, and that's really good because that shows that there is literally a minimum as to how much money can be within this. Therefore, it's not just going to fall to nothing. So Jupiter has a bunch of benefits, including what Gil mentioned about the fact that it's a newer token, it's a DEX platform, it's perpetual futures on it, it's focused on also stable coins. The tokenomics look great. I like the people behind the project. So there's a bunch of pros here to keep in mind.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely, I think, looking at all those things is very, very crucial. And the more you start to study these things, the more you hop on calls like this, the more you're on the Max Turo sessions, you start to understand these things. But to make things very simple, you want to look at assets that we've been talking about and that people have been talking about. And obviously the education's been talking about, but hasn't really made the move. And it's funny because he ran my mind. It's funny because we were just talking about this yesterday. But Ondo is the next coin I was literally going to talk about, because it's something that, not to be super bullish. Like I'm not the type of person to be like, oh my God, this coin is the only coin. I'm not saying that, but I think Ondo is going to surprise a lot of people. I really believe so. I believe most people in crypto are not going to participate in Ondo, and they're going to be like, dang, I wish I did. Because what Link is doing is now connected with Ondo. It's funny because Chase partnered with Chainlink and also partnered with Ondo. Remember, Chainlink has a great opportunity. It's already made some movement. It was here in the last run. Ondo is doing similar plays because they're real world assets. Chainlink is data, right? So they're kind of bridging the two. Chainlink is using Ondo. Ondo is using data. Like come together, and they're both US based companies. That's actually a big plus, actually, right now with what's going on, and it's bridging it. But Ondo wasn't here in the last run, so there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of unknown, but I do want to give you guys a disclaimer. If a project wasn't here in the last run, it also means that we don't know the euphoria moment. Like it's going to be harder to dictate where to take profits, and that's why we have to stay plugged in. That's why we have to understand distribution, right? The emotions in the markets. That's why we got to continue to be educated. Because I know people have been asking me, like, "Hey, Gil, like, how do you know when to take profit?" I mean, yes, you can have certain targets, right? Like Ondo, I have, previous all-time highs, TP1, 3.5, TP2, 4.75, TP3. These are just from numbers I've done with the tokenomics. But realistically, what I'm really looking for is the sentiment at the market that it will be here. And that's why continual education is so crucial. Because you can be in. Let's say you got educated, right? And you're in Zinran, you're in Powerhouse, and you're educating. Like, you know what, bro? This is sick. I'm in. Cool. And then a couple months later, things happen. You can't continue to pay the access, and then you just stay plugged in. You just stay like not plugged in, right? You just stay invested. You're like, oh, I'm in. I'm good. But what's gonna happen is the euphoria that's gonna hit here. You're gonna see it on social media. You're gonna see it on TikTok, and people will be like bullish, bullish, bullish. When believe it or not, our education most likely is gonna be like take profits, exit the market, and it's going to go against the average person. So that's why I always say the more you stay plugged in, the better, because you get to see every phase of the market, and you get to maximize that. So Ondo, guys, another great project that I wanted to talk about. File is another great one as well. This one is more of a lower cap coin. Now I want to give you guys an example of a token that I don't think it is. It might be actually, but I don't think it's a top 100. No, it is actually. Yeah, it's grown. Never mind. So it is. So it's a similar category when it comes to like Jupiter and stuff like that. When it comes to the market cap, again, fully diluted, amazing. To be honest, that's great numbers. Mike always says if this number is above this number, amazing. And it's a great asset. It's also like a data thing. It's kind of like a cloud storage type of deal. Very used right now. I really think it has to bring more adoption, but this is a coin that might move a little bit later. It might move a little bit late, it might lag, but at the same time, that's what we want. Again, it's an asset that's accumulating. Okay, it's accumulating, as you can see. And another one I do want to talk about, I'll talk about two more and then have John Luke add anything to end the call. But Helium is another project I want you guys to look at. I first called this out here, under $3, guys. It's at this moment right now. I love this zone right now. Like this, I think is the next entry, to be very frank with you. And it has an amazing upside. Helium is basically like a Wi-Fi mobile service and that you have. They do, different things, right? I'm not gonna go too much into it, but they do have like a mobile service as well. This is probably the most like tangible like thing, right? It's actually under the category it's under is Internet of Things, right? Things are being used in the internet. Like literally today, right now, I know people in the community. I'm actually going to be getting a miner myself because I had a good conversation with Fernando. But you can buy these miners and earn for providing in the network, right? You can actually be a part of their phone plan and literally get a phone plan for like $25. Like literally wild, right? So the mobile network they have. All right, let's see if it shows here. I know they keep updating this, so they always mobile network right here. Cool. Hello? Hold on a second. This one? Oh, it's here. Okay, I don't know why it's not showing, but they have a phone line that they already use the towers of T-Mobile, of AT&T, even in Mexico, like this one right here, right? So it's literally insane, the opportunities that exist here. And this is already live and in action. Like it's not something that the illusion. Some of these things are like, let's wait to see. This is already happening. This is already here. People already have these type of plans, right? So Helium, I think, is a great opportunity. I also think it will be a sleeper. Again, minimum 3x, fam. Like if this goes from here to 10, like you're Gucci, right? I'm not saying it's gonna not go higher. I think it will, but at the same time, these are the opportunities that exist. Okay, these are the opportunities that exist and that we have right now for every single one of us to take action. At the end of the day, you do want to diversify your portfolio. You don't want to be all eggs in one basket. But these are just a couple I wanted to give you guys when it comes to opportunity. Remember, again, it's consolidating. So that's what you want to look at right now is what assets that you're looking into, that you're plugged into, that you're doing research about, or you've been seeing on the platform on Zenrai. How can you get involved when it's in these moments? Because when most people were waiting for Solana in these moments, right? The people who capitalized saw the growth, right? The people that got into something like Ethereum, right, in these moments, right, are now seeing the fruit of it, right? That happens. The people that took advantage of Bitcoin, which was the first thing that moved here, took advantage of this. Even people here took advantage of this, right? This is where the opportunities lie in the consolidation, in the boring phase. Okay. So put a 7 in the chat if everything kind of went through, made sense. I'll pass it to my brother John Luke to end the call and add anything else he wants to talk to about.
100%. Yeah. I mean, great projects that you touched on, Filecoin, Helium. And so Filecoin, guys, it's just simply a decentralized cloud server. So earlier on in the call, I mentioned when you're diving in these projects, you're looking at the utility, the partnership, the competition, the communities. Well, the competition with Filecoin is things like Google Cloud, things like Amazon Web Server, AWS. And so, you don't have to be a tech geek to know that, but basically that decentralized storage means that you don't have a Google or you don't have an Amazon overseeing what's going on with the data because it's decentralized. And I think that's a massive pro because data is the world's most valuable asset anybody can have. There's been scandals, there's been lawsuits to Apple, to Google for manipulating data, for selling data to people. People don't realize governments buy data. They literally buy data because they want to know more about you than anything else possible. And so, as you know, Filecoin has contracts with Lockheed Martin, which is basically America's biggest security contractor. And so it's already being utilized within the military there. And so the other project, Helium, guys, back in the last bull run, we had a good friend of ours I went to his house in Dallas. I went to his apartment in Dallas and he had 5 or 6 Helium boxes, ready to deploy. And he's going to put it all around Dallas. And there's a competition on who can have their helium tower highest up in altitude. Because the higher up in altitude you have your tower, the more range of people that can use your helium tower. And guess what you get if you have people using your helium tower for network? Put in the chat. What do you think the owner of the helium tower gets when people use their helium network? What do they get in return for that? What is the incentive for having people use your helium tower? Some people say data here. Someone said tokens, passive income. Tokens, yeah. Like imagine that. My friend in Dallas is getting paid for random strangers connecting to his helium tower using his data. And he's getting free network. So that's one of the biggest benefits. Like there's so many ways to earn residual passive income in this space, and utilizing the helium towers is one of it. And another thing about helium, I want to mention to you guys, when I say helium, I don't mean the balloons, by the way, is that they recently have a deflationary mechanism with their tokens. Deflationary. What does that mean? That means, guys, that helium tokens are burned when more helium is used. Isn't that cool? Why? Because that means that there is effectively a form of limited supply and there's scarcity, and anything that is scarce, typically more demand arises. And if there's more demand, typically price goes up over time. That's what we see with Bitcoin with the 4-year halvening cycles. And that's what we see with many projects now implementing deflationary mechanisms, which is great. So as Gil's showing right here, one of the articles. So family, I hope you got some value on this call. I hope you learned one or two things. We appreciate you joining all. I think we hit like 19, 20 people on this call. Go ahead, share the love, spread what you learned. Go in the group chat and say, hey, today I learned this from the call. That's going to be my one request. Put one thing that you learned or that you liked from today's call. Myself and Gil will be back again next week, Saturday, giving more game, giving more value. So we look forward to seeing you there. We'll upload this to YouTube and we'll see you on our private Powerhouse Zimri calls. Thank you.